Okay, we'll go live.
We are live. Okay.
Are we live?
Yeah.
Are we?
Oh yeah.
Oh, yep,
Are we
yep.
live?
We
Oh,
sure
there we go.
are.
What's going on, peoples?
All 7 people in here. Thank you for coming.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Gucci
Yeah,
said.
that's a little bit my fault. It was still on unlisted. Whoops.
13. There, it's starting to.
But it's public.
Show
now.
up a bit.
Yeah, we're good. We're good.
Yeah.
That just means all the people missed out on that awesome opening jam.
So Steve went through all that trouble setting up that extra scene for nothing.
And it's still important for the recorded version, I think.
Wow, the interlace algorithm is terrible.
Well, it's
This
set.
picture
It's,
card
it's
uses.
set to line double. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's 480i at the beginning, right? It'll change to 240p after. So.
Mhm.
Don't you know, Zach?
Well, all the FMV stuff will be interlaced too.
Extrems Corner is not here, in case we were wondering.
Who? Who's
Extrems.
Oh, I don't know. Who that is. Oh, Extremes. Yeah. Okay.
Did I pronounce it wrong?
No, I don't know. Yeah. Okay. You see, with the
Did I
Extremes,
stutter?
you Oh.
So. Do we want to watch all the cutscenes, or should we
No.
skip through them?
Not really.
Wow, let's go. Let's start this.
This game sucks.
This game's
It's prob-
okay.
It's probably my favorite. One of my favorite X. It's definitely my favorite X game for PS1 for sure.
I
Is
found.
this game going to be on the PS1 Mini?
I don't know if Capcom can strike a deal with them or not. You know.
No, they're gonna have like Crash Bandicoot, maybe Resident Evil. No, Resident Evil's Capcom. That's right.
None of that matters to me as long as the whatever weird filtering they do to it looks as terrible as when you play PlayStation 1 games on a PlayStation 3. I don't want to see it. The PS Classics look kind of good though, but all the PS1 games I've tried look infinitely better through an original hardware through the OSSC. So.
I'm not that interested in the PS1 Mini as much as the NES and SNES. I don't think I'm gonna go out and buy one of those actually.
I mean, I never had a PS1, so I don't really know any of those games. So,
Okay.
I bought a PS1 when Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 came out because that game was awesome back then. And then I played a lot of Driver 2 was pretty cool. Siphon Filter was pretty awesome. But other than that, I think the games that got most of my attention during that era was still on N64.
What a loser.
I was an N64 kid.
Oh god. Oh, Bob, what's wrong with these people? Bob, help.
Sorry, I'm eating dinner. I just walked in the door. Like, walked in, signed in, and then here we are. So, sorry, part of the reason everybody's late.
That's cool, Bob. We weren't going to wait for you anyway. We're late because we're late. It's nothing to do with you. Yeah, so what do we got here, Steve? How many times have you played this game? Is this,
20 years ago, a lot.
yeah.
Within the last few years, 0 times.
Where does this game rank among the X's for you?
I think it's one of the most entertaining because it's the first time they let you play as 0 all the way through.
That's cool.
And the music is good, but the problem is I think it's too easy.
Not difficult.
Yeah.
What do you think? Do you think the Saturn version is the Saturn port is better?
I haven't had too much experience with the Saturn port.
Okay.
The resolution's all weird because you have to play with the borders on the sides. I believe I could be
okay.
mixing it up with a different Mega Man game.
Are you sure that's not Symphony of the? Oh, you know, it's probably like Symphony of the Night where they just ported the art assets over, and because of that, they had to skew and stretch them.
Yeah, well, you have the same problem on any game that's multi-plat back then. Unless they did separate
No,
art.
not necessarily. There's a lot of ports where they totally retooled the assets specifically for those native resolutions, so they didn't, have
Yeah,
to
that's what-
crop and stretch.
I ended with unless they did specific art.
Well, no one listens to you, Ray.
It's the same thing. Like if you look at the differences between Earthworm Jim Genesis versus Earthworm Jim Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
It's so much more playable on Genesis just because you see much more of what's ahead of you.
Have you played Earthworm Jim's on the Sega CDs?
I have. That is my most prized Sega CD game.
How much is it?
What's
these days?
different on the Sega CDs version?
There's a whole new level that's not on the regular cartridge game, and the audio is amazing. This is definitely the definitive.
CD
Version.
quality audio.
Yeah, this is the definitive way to play it. And someone asked how much I paid for it. I got this in 2004, I believe, my first year of college, and I paid the grand sum of, I think it was $25 on eBay. People
Oh,
didn't
you
realize
overpaid.
how valuable this game was. No, this is worth like $300 now. This game sells for a lot of money now.
I wonder when those prices are going to come crashing down because all the discs have just died from rot.
Well, most of these, see, like, this is what I do. See, I have the games in their original jewel cases. Well, not jewel, sorry. But then I always burn a copy to play with. And then I keep the original kind of intact because, as you know, there's no copy protection at all on Sega CD, so...
Yeah. Good idea.
Yeah, I just got a stack of Taio Yuden DVDs and CDs. I've been Voltar found me a cheap Plex Store burner, so that's what I've been using to burn all my ISOs. Work great.
That's right. That's right.
So yeah, I was up in Canada last week, and I went and visited Artings, which rates televisions and now headphones they're getting into. They invited me to come just check out their place, and man, that is such a cool setup they got there. I guess I didn't imagine just how like OCD and precise they would be about all of their measurements. I mean, I figured it was, pretty intense, but I think it even blew my mind a little bit. Like their testing rooms are pretty locked down to minimize any sound coming in. They have a very specific way about how they set up a camera and calibrate it so that every picture is identical. When you're if you wanted to compare two TVs, the shot is exactly the same, so you can flip back and forth. It's a pretty awesome place. Their audio setup is really crazy too. They have this big chamber that they built. They use to test things like leakage out of headphones and frequency response, all this crazy stuff. It's awesome. So highly recommend that company if you're ever interested in getting a pretty scientific cut on how a TV functions.
But why did they invite you?
Just because I've talked to them on Twitter a bit. I mean, back in the day when we were trying to suggest to them that maybe they add component video 240p testing to their suite of tests, I had initially reached out to them and they were considering it, but now it's kind of that point is moot as more and more TVs drop that. But I still think there's some cool things that maybe later on we could work together with them with.
When you were kind of pushing that with them, the 240p component testing, did you also encourage a particular methodology for that, or did you just say, you guys should just do this, and
Well, but, I mean, back then I was just like, hey, if you guys ever want to add this to your suite of things you want to test and report about a TV, just let me know, and I'll be happy to talk you through it or come out there. And but yeah, that never materialized, and I mean that's fine. It's they have so much going on. It's crazy.
you know, it's alarming to me how rampant and how quick TV manufacturers are dropping component video.
Yeah, I think it's
happening a lot faster, especially through 2018. I've noticed.
very foolish of them. I think, like, I don't know.
How do you feel that the TCLs have composite but no component?
I think
Yeah,
it's
that's-
absurd.
I don't know. Yeah, like at a minimum, just keep a shared jack and
Mhm. That's right.
but whatever. It's yeah, it's neat. The business model's pretty interesting. I really don't know how they sustain it. I mean, it's a 15-person operation. It's a bigger company than I thought. And their whole, I mean, they don't charge you a fee to look at their reviews. Like, the money that they make seems to be, yeah, they don't have ads either. Purely based on, like, Amazon referrals type thing. But, yeah, it's cool. Cool place.
Oh, that's nice. That's wonderful, Nick.
Yeah, I just thought I'd share that. The headphones was even more interesting than the TVs, because actually testing headphones is like damn near impossible. Because if you have two people, your head is shaped differently, your ears are shaped differently. You know, like everything about your head acts as a giant filter that shapes the waveform coming in, and so you can hand the same pair of headphones to two people, and one person will say the bass on this is fantastic, and the other person will not get bass out of them. So it becomes really tough to measure that stuff objectively.
Yeah, well, did they have some sort of spectrum analysis machines that will capture the audio waveforms, you know, and they'll...
They do. They built like this whole rubber human head, and they measure all these things in the chamber, but they've added to their suite of tests just like they just get a bunch of different people to give subjective valuations, because the objective measurements only go so far. Like I was saying, like they can say that these headphones are pumping out this waveform, but then you want to get like a variety of people actually testing them.
I see. Yeah, I'd like to have some decent headphones again.
Yeah, I asked them. I was like, okay, so for the money, what brand of headphones would you recommend? And I mean, the first thing the guy said to me, which is like totally predictable, and I really knew this already, is that, you know, based on any research about this topic, like there is zero correlation between price and quality of headphones. It's just it's all over the map. You can get cheap headphones that sound good and expensive ones that suck. But I think if I remember right, he seemed to really like Sennheiser as a brand.
You mean I shouldn't be spending hundreds of dollars on Beats?
I asked him about Shure, because that's a company that's headquartered in the hometown that we grew up in, and they are known for having like earbuds that cost $500 a pair. But yeah, again, I don't think the price warrants the quality. It's just not worth it.
Yeah. If I were going to spend that kind of money on earbuds, I'd want them to inject plaster into my ears so that they would be 100% form-fitting to my anatomy.
Yeah, I mean, I've never put in a pair of earbuds that I enjoyed wearing. That doesn't seem to work with.
This is what I use when I run every morning. They're Bluetooth, and they sync to my watch, and that's what I use. I keep one out typically because I need to have some sort of environmental awareness, but they fall out. I mean, and I paid a good amount of money for these, but they still fall out after, I guess, about a mile. They get really loose, and I have to stop and fucking squeeze a little foam and, you know, touch myself.
Yeah, I mean, fortunately, I've never really liked running while listening to music anyway, so I don't care to spend a bunch of time spending, you know, in a bunch of money to find something. But
I don't understand how the people can like run in the middle of the street with both earbuds in, and unless they like put the balance all to one side, which I doubt a lot of them are doing.
That's what most people you see in New York do, and it's double shitty because not only is it dangerous for them, but the people that jog on the sidewalk in New York have zero regard for people just walking down the street, old people with walkers, people with children. They just act like they paid money to jog on that, and we're in their way, and they have their headphones in and will run people right over, and it drives me nuts.
Dude, man,
I just did one.
Runners are in general super
Selfish.
Yeah, they think they are the world.
Very self-absorbed.
I do enjoy when they bump into me who's been going to metal shows, brutal, crazy metal shows since I was 14, and they hit my fat ass and bounce right the fuck off like it was the wall in a gym. I was a little surprised when I don't fall and they do. It's like, hey man, you ran straight into me. I didn't do a thing wrong.
I find that whatever activity I'm doing, people who are doing the other activities are always in the wrong. So if I'm running, the bikers and the cars are just assholes. But if I'm driving, the runners are just, they need to get out of the way. So
at least you admit it.
Yeah, it's frame of reference.
No, I'm the opposite. I'm super consistent. It's like, you can't wait 2 seconds to let the car pass? Give me a break, dude. Jesus.
I can't.
I'm the
I
most
always have a
considerate.
hard... Oh, sorry.
I'm the most considerate because I always jog on my treadmill.
I'm more considerate than you because I don't jog at all. You know, the one set of headphones I'm looking forward to try are the Jabra Elite 65T. They got great reviews on a bunch of different sites. They're totally wireless, and they're usually $170, and they went down to like $130 the other day. And I thought, well, you know, if they're down now, they're probably just going to go down like that for a while, and they went right back up in price. So I missed out. You know, but I judge headphones differently now because you need them to stay in. You know, you need them to be able to get wet without completely turning into crap. They can't clip. Like, you know, there's some pretty basic requirements that it's really hard to do for earbuds.
But Bob, if they're totally wireless, how do you charge them?
The Jabras have this really cool charging case that you put them in.
Ah, cool. It was a serious question.
Mine has a little, you tether it to a charger, but it's got a micro USB type. Yeah, it's a micro USB.
I think I have the exact same ones as you, Zach. Which brand was yours again?
I don't even know. I really don't even remember. I don't know what that logo means, but.
Whoops.
Yeah.
Hey Bob, my 2.5 millimeter headset for my flip phone is a Jabra.
Your flip phone has a headset thing in it? I'm so impressed.
No, it has the 2.5 millimeter thing.
Yeah, I think all of them did. Mine did.
Yeah.
All of my flip
Smoke
phones had
Master
one.
said his earbuds are United Airlines brand.
That's awesome.
I had to dig mine out to figure out which kind they were. They were in the bag I brought home. They are Aukey, A-U-K-E-Y. They were like $16, and they're all right. The cord kind of annoys me sometimes, but for under $20, they're fine. And I left these in my shorts when I put them in the wash the other day. I found them before they went in the dryer, and I left them in the sun to dry, and they still work fine. I listened to them the whole day today on the subway.
What music did you listen to?
I was listening to the podcast that I shot yesterday to make sure I didn't sound really awful in it, and that it was good enough to post tomorrow or Friday, depending on when I finish it. So yeah,
So did
Okay.
you sound really awful? Or?
I sounded like an asshole for the first 20 minutes. I don't know what got into me. I didn't drink too much. I should have drank more beforehand or something. I don't really get it.
Yeah, this is. I'm gonna put this in the chat. This is what those guys were talking about with the subjective-ish tests, where they test for consistency, and you get a map of all these different people and how they heard different frequencies for this pair of headphones. It's kind of neat.
Hey Nick, can you open up like a little notepad thing, and then anything you put in the chat, put in the description of the video?
Yeah, I can do that. Did we ever decide what we were going to do about some people wanting the chat replay and other people not wanting the chat replay? I forget.
I think as
I thought
long
that
as
was
you post links in the description, then whatever's chat stays in chat is my vote.
Yeah, I thought
Yeah.
that was definitively and assertively no replay,
Yeah, I thought
No.
it was a no as well.
no live replay.
Yeah.
Hey, so I just opened up the mail. I got a package today that I wasn't expecting, and I opened it up, and here we go. 2
Let's see your
years late.
package.
Is it upside
Is
down?
it-
No, sorry, it's right side
Oh, is
up.
that SIO thing or PS?
Yes,
yeah,
it
yeah,
is.
yeah.
2 years late.
Yeah, I stopped doing those. That's such a pain in the ass.
Yeah, I don't even really want it anymore. I think I'm just gonna give mine to Art.
Just get a
What is it?
PS1 Mini, man.
Yeah, no. Definitely.
I think the compatibility is pretty crappy on it too.
I heard that got better, but I can't say for sure. I'll let you know when I install this one and update the firmware, and then give it a.
I thought it was
right?
entirely way too expensive.
Yeah,
my opinion.
especially because if you could find somebody that could do some of the higher end PS2 Slim mods, you can get for the price of a PS2 Slim and the mod, you could get almost just this.
Now, when you say higher end PS2 Slim mods, what are you referring to specifically?
When I say higher end, I'm referring to the mods that are done by people that know what they're doing, so that they don't fall apart, they work, that they don't kill your PS2 while they're working on them.
Did that happen to you or something? I don't understand what you're talking about.
I've seen lots and lots of pictures, and I vaguely remember when the first PS2 mod chip came out. I was like, hey, I installed mod chips all the time. I'll just buy one of these and install it myself. And an hour later, when I got the PS2 apart, I was like, oh my god. How am I gonna do this? I was like 20 something. I was like 20 maybe, but yeah.
I don't have a lot of experience with PlayStation 2 mods, so I'm not really a person to talk about that. But I believe you.
I
I totally believe what you're saying. Yeah, there was the sort of the pinnacle of that era of modding for the PlayStation 2 was it was terrible. So many systems died as a result.
Oh crap! I have not been monitoring the super chats. I apologize. I'd like to thank Dave Kirscher, who I think is no longer with us.
Oh shit! When did he die?
Yeah, nice choice of words there.
Rest in peace,
but
Dave.
I think he'll finish watching the stream later. So much obliged for your donation to the Nick's yacht fund and Ryan over at Castlemania Games.
Hey Ryan, I'll get back to you later, my man. Ryan wants to maybe put some product of mine on his eBay store, and I'm trying to work that out.
Ryan says that he hopes that Bob and Renee compose some more music for the TRRT, whatever that is. I never heard of it. But you guys should compose some music for it.
Yeah, that's definitely gonna happen at some point. I've been harassing Renee sexually for months now. and I'm being the one delaying it actually because I got to get my drum track set up, then I got to start getting everything else done, and a big thing in the mix. Not only have I had no free time whatsoever to do that, but one of my favorite bands is from Jersey, and I got to know them pretty well over the years. And their bassist is going in for back surgery, and he's phenomenal. And they're like, "Hey man, we know you love the band a lot. Would you want to step in for him?" So that would be kind of the equivalent of like Voltar taking a break and saying, "Hey, would you like to step in for me for modding?" So, no, I don't think there's any chance in fucking hell I can pull that off at all. But I'm still gonna try. You know me, I'd rather try and fail than not try at all. But so, yeah.
I've had dreams like that where I'll have been asked to like play guitar for a band on stage, and I'll get up there and I'll have no idea how to play any of the songs, and it's terrifying.
I'm not very good anymore, as I used to be a pretty good guitar player. The only band that I could actually do that for and pull it off is probably Metallica, because Kirk Hammett is terrible. Otherwise,
Stop it. He's good. He's just not the best guitarist on the planet. But
no, he's not good. I'm sorry.
there was a point in my life where I could have completely stepped in for Jesper of In Flames and barely missed a note. I loved that. I still love that band, but I used to, before I really started doing a lot of my own music and playing in bands, I learned all of their songs, and every time a new album came out, I would just learn it start to finish.
You know when Kirk Hammett he began to fall off? He began to fall off when they exhausted all of the Dave Mustaine material, Postmaster of Puppets, and when they exhausted all of the tidbits and notes that Cliff Burton, because Cliff Burton was a big theory guy too, and a lot of the stuff that were on those records were a result of him. When they sort of ran out of all of that, I mean, you listen to the Black Album, and then you've got Load and Reload, and I'm sorry, Kirk Hammett, both technically and just in about every respect, I don't think he's a very good guitar player at all.
It's funny you say that, Zach, because not many people realize that how much of Mustaine's material, because he is not at all a technical guitarist, but he's a great songwriter, and
Sure.
So much of his material spilled into those, the remaining Metallica albums. You nailed it, and you also nailed the Cliff Burton theory thing. So not many people know that. That's pretty cool that you even knew that.
Well, I mean, I kind of did that for years, Yeah, Cliff Burton. I mean, Dave Mustaine's no Marty Friedman, but Dave Mustaine can play guitar. I mean, Dave Mustaine could play guitar. I don't know if he still can. Can he?
yeah, he's not bad. I saw him a couple times in the last tour, and it was funny because when he screwed his hand up because he got all fucked up on drugs and fell asleep on his hand, when he screwed his hand up, they told him he'd never even be able to hold a glass in his hand again, let alone play guitar.
So he had the nerve damage?
Yeah. And once again, it was, just like when he got kicked out of Metallica, it was, if you tell Dave he can't do something, that's it. Vengeance is all he needs, and he came back, I think, stronger than the last few albums where he started to fall off.
Just to preface sort of what I've already said, I'm not a Kirk Hammett hater. This is a Kirk Hammett. This is a KH202, so I'm not just hating on the guy. Okay, I know Kirk, I know him sexually. His guitar sucks, by the way.
I'll hate on Kirk Hammett. I bought the whatever that latest Metallica album is called.
Death Magnetic? No.
No.
God, what's it called?
There's a newer one, anyways. And
Hey,
I
Anger,
wish
right? That's the new one.
No,
With
stop
the open,
it, Nick.
with the
Stop
open
it.
snare.
I wish there was a mix that you could buy off of for that new Metallica album that doesn't have any of the lead parts in it, because they're just so generic and terrible. I think the songs would actually be better if they didn't have any solos in it from Kirk Hammett.
That's why I think that's why he didn't solo on Saint Anger, because he was just fucking done. And Death Magnetic would have been a good album had it been mastered and mixed appropriately. That's what really killed that album, in my opinion. I thought their music and their riffs was pretty good, but it was just terribly mastered, horribly
And
mastered.
the arrangements weren't that good, and I really don't dislike Kirk's guitar playing, but whenever you let him write a lyric, it's pretty painful. He's the one that wrote "Your lifestyle will determine your death style." When I heard that, I thought it was James. I was like, oh my god, Rehab is killing James.
I am
yeah, this is
madly in
terrible.
anger with you, Bob.
Yep, and that's when I saw the documentary and realized it was Kirk that wrote it, and it made a lot of sense.
Here's
No,
what happened.
Can I say something real quick? I got a question for chat if anyone wants to chime in. That boss that I just killed, does anybody know how to kill him in a different way than I just did? Because that's the only way I know how. All right, you can continue the conversation.
So
Sorry.
my main problem with Kirk is not so much even the Black Album, even the Load, that is not the problem. The problem is for some reason, man, that guy has a hard-on for the shittiest wah effects in the world, and it's nothing but very basic. It's wah that's heavily layered over some very, very rudimentary pentatonic leads. And that's 90% of Kirk Hammett's. You know, that's all. That's it's just in different keys for whatever song he's playing. I don't know. It's like it's getting so bad now. It's like he's getting worse and worse as time goes on. I don't know if it's because he's getting older or if he's just becoming more lazy.
You guys seem like you might be Metallica experts then. So I have a question. Did Metallica win that battle with Napster?
Yeah, I mean it depends on what you consider winning, but yeah.
Yeah,
Totally.
that's actually something that
Lars
I think,
Ulrich totally did.
Yeah, that's something that was very misconstrued over the years. Metallica didn't sue Napster to steal millions. Metallica sued Napster because Lars was smart enough to have the foresight of like, holy shit, if we were a new band now, we'd never have made it. We'd have to quit our jobs and go fucking shovel shit somewhere.
That's right.
He was actually right on that one.
So Metallica won.
Yeah.
They
totally
beat
won.
Napster.
Well, Napster was dissolved, and then in its stead, Kazaa, Morpheus, LimeWire, all the other P2Ps started to come. So they really didn't win anything. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, they didn't win.
I'm sorry, I'm just fucking with you guys.
They didn't win.
Jesus.
Sorry, it's the mustache. Everything you say, I expect you to either end with burst out laughing or like a finger in a butt.
You know, I would wager to
Usually
say
both.
I would wager to say that James Hetfield is a better guitarist than Kirk Hammett, and I'm dead serious.
I mean, he writes some pretty crazy rhythm riffs, so I would have to go with that's overall probably.
Dude, he's a rhythm playing motherfucker. He's amazing, I think. You know, that's just me. You know what? When they dropped Bob Cock, that's when it all started going down. They should have just put Bob Rock in the band.
Well, you know, the Bob Rock has been quoted as saying that, you know, he gets blamed a lot for having changed Metallica and having made them soft and whatnot, but he always states that the band was changed and wanted to change before they got to him. So he just produced what they came with. Yeah, they were ready to be, you know, mainstream and be on the radio. That's where they wanted to go. And they selected Bob Rock for that purpose.
Because he was such a Bon Jovi, you know.
What did Bob Ross do for the band? He painted them?
Bob
or-
Ross, fuck you and your mustache. Oh my god. You don't deserve to have the full goatee. You totally need to have a mustache when you say something that shitty. Rather that or grow out your fro a little more.
I'm working on a Bob Ross fro. That's what I'm
Bob
going
Rock
for.
sounds like a genre of rock.
That's right. It's Bob Rock. It's a little heavier, a little slower.
Oh wait, I was supposed to go up there. Yeah, whatever.
No, but all in all, I mean, we're here having this really long conversation about Metallica, but they're definitely not my favorite band. They're definitely not like my top 5. There's some much better acts out there. I find like Symphony X or Tool or Dream Theater. I'm gonna, you know, pick that album
Or
Symphony
Slayer.
X.
Anytime of the day before I listen to Metallica. Especially
It
Symphony
depends.
X. Symphony X is amazing. They keep getting better and better every album.
If we're
And his band's
talking,
here.
Blackened,
I don't care about the porn websites that you visit.
That really doesn't work, Nick.
Sorry. Dan Citrus 3000 PSI's here though.
Oh, hey Dan.
What's up,
Good to
Dan?
see you.
Hey.
Dan, how's the GameCube stuff going? You're really moving ahead. You're really moving ahead in life.
So we're working on the Wii stuff now.
It's got the Wii and the Dreamcast, digital video, doing HDMI's for the Dreamcast, which I'm looking forward to doing a video on that, if he'll allow me.
On which one? All of it? Dreamcast?
I don't care about the Wii. I mean, I'm not saying that in a bad way. I just don't like. I mean, I don't care about the Wii, but I do. I think the Dreamcast thing is really cool. So I'd like to do a video on the the HDMI modification to get digital video out of the Dreamcast.
All of those things look awesome to me, to be honest with you. But yeah, the
wondered-
Dreamcast one's intriguing.
You know what? I saw where I did see a forum post that I did kind of look into. It was for the Wii. I don't know if it was like for the first revision or second revision, because I think they went through some. They changed the dies up a bit on the Wii. I think the old Wii's actually ran really hot, but at any rate, evidently they came up with they found vertical and horizontal sync pins on the DAC, and they were able to break VGA out. And I was wondering, okay, they've got a VGA interface coming out, but does it have the same bandwidth limitations as component video?
That is a great question. I would assume yes, but Dan, have you messed with that at all?
I mean, is it treated as if you look at the bandwidth, does it look like interlace, 480 video? That I thought was kind of neat. I was like, well, that's kind of interesting. I wonder if that solves that problem. If it doesn't solve that problem, then I think this VGA mod is a complete waste of time.
Yeah, Dan said yes, it does. So, yes on which? Yes, it does look like interlace crap, or
Well, yes, it does solve the problem.
Yes, it's a huge waste of time.
Nobody asked you,
I
Steve.
don't
Get back
get
to your
the
megabit.
hate for Wii.
Jesus. Yes, that's like an answer Zach gives me when I ask a technical question. Hey Zach, I just built one of your boards exactly to spec, and I get some shit on the thing. Is there a problem with this, or do I need to just send it back? Yes.
Hey, Bob.
Fuck you.
Did you guys
Bob.
know that Wii just had a game
I-
released for it?
I don't know if this is showing up, but Nick, you're just gonna have to wait. Say hello to demonetization. Oh, Daddy. Oh, is it coming up on the screen? Oh.
there you go.
Oh.
It'd be so much funnier if you had a picture of me printed out and taped to the face.
Oh, let me see if I got the camera. I mean,
Oh, Jesus Christ. How do we hang up on Zach?
Yeah.
good luck, Nick.
You know what I
we-
never ever remember is when you get these 3mm LEDs that don't have a flat side. I never remember if the long lead is the anode or if the short lead is the anode. So I always gotta pull out the meter and test before I solder them. Pisses me off. They should all have a flat side.
Even
So-
if they
You
have a
said
flat
anode.
even if they have a
There we
flat
go.
side, there's gonna be a one-off brand that just does shit backwards.
So Bob, I wasn't paying attention earlier, but did Dan say that analog, that VGA mod does in fact take care of the sort of bandwidth issue?
Yes, it does. The syncs are unused pins. I think someone found some I2C commands. Does that make sense
Oh.
to you smart people?
Some I2C commands that can inform those pins to make them do certain things.
Yeah.
Who said yeah?
Yeah.
Stat.
You know what I disagree with? I disagree with I2C. I've always called it I2C. And people who call it I2C piss me off.
Well, Renee, maybe you should just seek therapy for that.
Do you also call it E squared, Renee?
Yeah, Renee. Good point, Steve. Thank you.
I still sometimes call capacitors like 220 UF because it's like you're fucked if you do and you're fucked if you don't. You talk to somebody who's technical and they'll be like, you're a moron. You don't say UF, you say microfarad. But then you try to explain something like that to somebody who doesn't know technology and they're just trying to order on DigiKey. And they're like, what the hell is a microfarad? These things are listed as UF or PF. So whatever.
You know what kills
What?
me when people when people say IEEE and they don't say IE cubed.
Nick card.
The rest of you fuckers really kill me. You know that?
All
It's
the-
IE cubed.
All the old timers for picofarads, they say puff.
I was
Oh,
about
yeah.
to say that. I say puffs because
I say puffs.
Yeah, because
my
I
first
hung out with
first
all
job
the old
was-
timers. Yeah.
yeah. The old timers.
Dan
So-
says yes, it's 480p max. He also said that long is positive, which is what every lady has ever told me.
Never, you mean. Never.
Th-
But
has-
Every lady
so
has never told you.
so Steve, if a picofarad's a puff, then I mean the nanofarad should be the nuff and the microfarad should be a muff.
100 nuffs is equivalent to 1 puff.
No, enough said. Enough said, Renee.
100 is enough to be a puff.
Yeah.
100 nuff is enough for a puff, right?
You know, I've got a 470 muff right here. 10 volts. It's going to the garbage.
Has anyone ever, was there ever any sort of developer documentation or any sort of dev documentation that explained why the 480 progressive output of the Wii, the bandwidth was sliced in half, so it still looks like 480i when you look at it? I'll take that as a no. Is
Yeah,
that a
that's a
register?
good
Do you think there's a register in the on that ATI graphics chip that can manipulate that specifically, or do you think that?
I don't think so.
Because I mean, the reason I say that is because on typically all video cards you can manipulate that on the register level. So I was wondering if the Wii was the same way with its ATI. I think it's called Broadway or Hollywood.
You think the reconstruction filter is set to the standard F frequency and it's locked in there?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Extreme says there's nothing in the SDK. Nothing to do with the GPU.
So it's limited. That's just limited by the DAC then, I guess. The DAC that was used. I wonder if that DAC is off the shelf or if that's proprietary by Nintendo.
Daniel asks if we've heard about the 100 hertz CRT TVs in Europe. I've heard about them. I've
mean, we
heard
have-
that they exist.
We have those in the States. I mean, a lot of those Vega TVs were 85, 100 hertz. Mm-hmm. That's true.
Wasn't there a Luva TV that was also 100 hertz?
There was. Yep.
A what?
That's right.
Luva, Loewe. They had some fucking amazing TVs.
Yeah.
Never
Yeah,
heard
during
of
the-
it.
During the pinnacle of the CRT era, they were like, if you went to a nice person's house that lived in Beverly Hills, that's probably what you would find in their home.
Or
Built
if you
into
went
a
to a
wall.
fat nerd's house that was always at the right place at the right time. I had my Aconda I got for like $1,200, and I had an Articos for 22 at a time where they were selling for 55. So hell yeah.
If the DAC is off, I mean, I bet that DAC, you know, with the different, they did some die shrinks, I'm sure, of the GPU and CPU of the Wii, and so you know, throughout the mainboard revisions, though, I wonder if those data sheets exist for the DAC, so you could see, you know, maybe some IC squared commands you could issue to the DAC to change the SD ED output.
You probably need to sign an NDA with ATI and show a business plan, whatnot, to even get information on that shit.
I don't think the ATI has anything to do with the DAC that we use, though.
Well, okay, sorry. If it's part of the video chip, if it was made by ATI, it was the same story with because I used to work at RIM, right, for the cell phones, and you could even only particular groups within RIM were allowed to see the Qualcomm data sheets because they had NDAs, but NDA only covered the specific set of developers. Everyone else wasn't allowed to see the data sheets of those Qualcomm chips.
It's perplexing to think about because you would think that Jesus Christ, something like that wouldn't have been that situation would not be the result of a quirk or a small glitch like that. the bandwidth limiting the 480p output was very intentional. It had to be. That had to be.
Well, that was their first 480p capable console, so they might have just screwed
No,
up.
it's not.
Isn't it?
No. You have a GameCube.
Oh, a GameCube. Yeah. I forgot about that. Yeah, never mind.
So
Is the GameCube output's not bandwidth
Right.
limited, right?
Right.
So
Did
that's
they
just
did they outsource that project to somebody else?
I don't know. Maybe. Well, you know, the whole thing about the GameCube was the digital was supposed to be for progressive, obviously for progressive output, but they were really
Okay.
working on a lot of that fun 3D stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, Dan's either asking you to show your dog or take your penis out. I can't tell which one. I'm assuming because it's Black Dog Productions, he's actually talking about your dog, but dog's right behind you.
Oh, that's Scout, and the dog over there is my 16-year-old Jack Russell Terrier. His name is Doc.
16, man.
Come here, dog. Not
I
you.
can't believe that anything you take care of would live to 16. I kid.
Huge
Screwball.
shout out to Andrew Wright for super chat, $10. Thank you very much, sir. Any
Why are
other
you thanking him? We don't see any of this money, Bob.
yeah, thank you for Nick's mustache cream. But he asked about the TCL TV, and no, I didn't hear back from him, and I never expect to. I never expect to hear from these big companies at all. But after keeping messing with it, it really is just over a frame of lag, so it's not the worst. And you know, there are so many kind of cool advantages of just having a TV with all that stuff built in, especially if you primarily use Hulu and Netflix and YouTube
Yes, sir.
and stuff. So it's pretty
It's
I
pretty
don't know.
amazing. I'm having a pretty good time over here.
I bet you are. You just keep trying to get Skype to go over to your window so there can just be a glimpse. You fucking dirtbag. You keep it up.
It goes!
Jesus. I'm just gonna hang up on Zach.
Oh, good. Oh, you got one. Oh, you got one. Oh, there you go.
Actually, an interesting thing about lag testing, because I was talking to Arting's guys about how they did that, and they built their own little device that they like basically tape to the TV, and they know when it sends the signal, and then they can measure. As soon as they see it on the TV, they like put it right up against there.
So they don't
And-
use a Leo Bodner. They have their own in-house tool for that.
Yes, if I remember correctly, they bought one and they also built one of their own.
Okay.
And I forget which is which. Like, I think one of them was restricted to only being able to output like 1080-60, and the other one was like fully customizable. It was a pretty sweet little tool. They're very similar. But interesting side note, I was talking to them about HDMI licensing and what a pain it is. And I guess the first one that they had got was from a company that didn't like appropriately HDMI license and ended up getting shut down. So I thought that was kind of a interesting side note.
Well, let's hope that doesn't happen to the HDMI analyzer, because I know that you guys have said very liberally that you have no intentions of licensing that. Period.
So
I mean-
try to fly right under the radar.
Well, you know, I was thinking about that. Nick, you were talking about how they kind of have their own in-house tool to test input latency, and I was kind of thinking about that a few days ago, or a while ago, because if they were only using a Leo Bodner, I think the Leo Bodner limits you to 720. You can only test with a 720 resolution. So I was curious if that's the case. They must be using something, and what are they using? Because they are quantifying all these different resolutions and running these tests. So that's
Yeah, I mean, I
interesting.
didn't get to look at it for too long, but yeah, it was a little box thing that had a little sensor on it, and they would tape it directly up to the TV, and they would run content on the TV and additionally like add in this signal. It seemed like that would be like flashing, and they would just measure the latency. So it's pretty cool. One thing that I thought was kind of neat that they pointed out is they always now wait for the TV to warm up for several minutes because the latency when you initially turn on the TV can be different from after it's warmed up. And the reason they found this out was because they had initially measured, I believe it was a Sony TV, and their measurements differed from what Sony had measured. And Sony actually contacted them and said, hey, we think this is wrong. Can you go retest? And when they retested, and after several retests, they realized that number decreased over time. So when the TV initially turns on, the latency is a little bit higher.
I guess those LEDs, once they warm up, they become a little faster in their responses. I got a question. I mean, not a question, but I don't know if this was handled, but Andrew Wright sent Nick $10. We don't benefit from that. And he says, I don't get to watch live, but I'll throw in my super chat. Did Bob ever hear anything from TCL about the lag? My 2-year-old son of a bitch Sony LCD panel is dying, so I've got to pick out a replacement. Bob, did they ever respond to you, TCL?
No, I was talking about that when
That's how we
you were
got on
mouth-fucking
this.
your blow-up doll.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah,
No,
that's
they did
literally
not.
what we've been talking about.
Oh, I didn't actually hear him say that they didn't respond. I just know that we were talking about it.
Yeah, you didn't hear.
oh yeah, the blow-up latex squeaking a little too loud in front of you there, Zach.
There was
What,
another
Bob?
question that I think. Where is it? I lost
I don't
it.
know what the hell's going on around here, but I'd really appreciate some respect.
So
Someone-
tell us, Zach,
oh,
how,
yeah, there
how
we
did
go.
that short bus ride feel when you were going to school?
I don't know, Renee.
Screwball 2064 asked how we feel about plasma TVs. I would still have a plasma TV if mine didn't shit out on me, because I love the look of it, and it processed 240p correctly and was super nice.
Well, the blacks are phenomenal. The blacks are phenomenal, but the memory, the image retention, I don't know if that technology has improved any.
It did towards the end. Actually, I remember when I first went into stores with the Sega Nomad and tested TVs. I was going around and plugging stuff in, and there was these two TVs that were like, why do these Samsungs look so good? I don't understand. And it just looked way better than everything I tested before, like the 10 TVs I tested before. And it was
That's
because
right.
those two were plasmas. So,
This is so ridiculous. I've got to get the camera to change to somebody else. I'm having too much fun.
Yeah, maybe just get rid of all that crap.
Okay, I threw the blow up doll out of here.
Yeah, it's good. But yeah, my plasma died after 3 years, which I then took back to Costco, and they gave me a full refund for the purchase price. Great return policy there.
well, poor return policy, but it benefited you.
Yeah, great return policy for the customer.
Yeah, it was
really
very
stupid for them. So I ended up getting like $500-600 for this TV 3 years later, and then just bought a 60-inch LED with it. But yeah, I wish I still had that TV because it looked awesome.
Is that the one where you got like even more money than what you paid for it, or was that somebody else? I'm thinking of somebody else.
That was probably somebody else. I think I just got what I paid for it.
think it was your
Panasonic
brother.
Plasma.
Yeah, somebody in the chat
Viera.
said plasmas only had a 5-year lifespan.
No
Definitely
kidding.
not true. Definitely, without a doubt,
Well,
not true.
Well, I mean, I think that might be average based on usage, right? I don't know.
All of the plasmas I've seen die, with the exception of the ones that are, if you're, I've seen them in a bar where they're on for 18 hours a day, 7 days a week, and those a lot of problems. But for your average consumer use, even people that watch a lot of TV, the number one issue for plasmas is power boards that die and need capacitor replacements.
That's
Yeah,
pretty much the crux for all flat panels.
Yeah, I was
really.
about to say, yeah, it was those power boards are what died.
Yeah, but you know what's funny is when an LCD TV dies, I don't really give a shit, so I don't even bother trying to fix it. And when everybody I know has an amazing plasma, then I go out of my way to look shit up online and see what needs to be done to get it repaired.
Bob, don't you have, what is that TV that you jack off all over all the time and you're like, oh god, it's like a 30-year-old plasma that you had calibrated professionally and you just can't get enough of it and you're just wanking all over it all the time?
It's my wank TV is now at Scott's house. So funny that you put it that way. But that was a Panasonic Plasma GT25. And yes, it was professionally calibrated and it was awesome. But the 65 C6 OLED is better, without a doubt.
So do you think OLED is, the technology for OLED has gotten to the point to where it's consumer ready? Like, go ahead, buy it, it's ready.
Yes, no doubt in my mind.
Whoa.
Speaking of OLED, actually, I forgot to mention this at the Arting shop. The first thing they showed me was a room that they had with 6 OLEDs set up that they've been running 20 hours a day, I think for 2 years now. And they're going for like a 3-year test. And they're testing burn-in under a variety of scenarios. Like artificial content, CNN on a loop with their logo at different opacities, like layered on top of the content. Just like they have a variety of tests going, and it's pretty cool. There is significant burn-in at this point on a number of them, but that's running an insane number of hours.
I don't think OLED's going to really I don't think it's going to get the traction unless there's a serious technology change to where that burn-in issue is thoroughly mitigated. At this point, it is not thoroughly mitigated. And until then, I'm not going to jump on. I can tell you that.
Well, don't forget that burn-in and image retention are two completely different things. Image retention happens
Thank you,
all
Bob.
the time.
I did not know that.
All the time. And it happens, and it goes away in minutes. So that,
this is burn-in. This is, I guess particularly reds burn in worse than other colors.
I wonder why that is.
There's a reason that makes sense. But things like, if you had a TV in an office where you were playing CNN, or like at the airport, they actually mentioned this. If you were at the airport and you just had that TV playing CNN all the time, it's going to go to shit pretty fast, right? Because you have that CNN logo, breaking news logo in red in one spot all the time. Like, you got a year of that TV before it looks like shit.
What about if you're like a big Super Mario Brothers 3 player, though, Nick?
Yeah, maybe I'll say.
You know what I mean? You're playing that 5 or 6 hours, 7 hours a day. Like you're a speedrunner, right? And you want a really nice, high-quality TV, and it's just like, some people might play a game for 30 minutes to an hour, but a lot of these people, runners are playing games for 12, 13, 14 hours. Do you think that would be an issue for somebody, for a serious, sort of long-duration gamer?
I think it would. And I would like to edit my comment. If you like a variety of content, movies, TV, games, OLED, I'm sticking with it 100%. But if you're primarily a gamer, or if any kind of digital signage and stuff like that, yeah, it's still a LCD TV.
Yeah, I mean, it just depends on the content, right, and how often it changes. If you're playing Super Mario and you have like the icon of your face times 3 and that's always there all the time, that's going to be bad. But if you're just playing like a PlayStation 4 game all the time where the content's like literally always changing, unless there's some static HUD or something.
Yeah, that's why I mentioned. That's why I use Mario 3 as an example. See, I don't know. LED technology with local dimming. How close does it get to your worst OLED set?
I don't know.
From what I've seen, I've never owned one, so I don't have many hours, but I do. From what I've seen, it's pretty good. But when you get to the price of the stuff that's that high quality, you could pretty much just buy an OLED. And if you see them next to each other for movies, I think your average person would pick the OLED every time.
Have they finally?
I agree.
Well, have they finally just fucking put their foot down and decided on a standard for Dolby Vision or HDR? Has that been finalized yet, or are they still going back and forth?
Not for HDR, no.
Jesus Christ. It's still too early, guys. I know a lot of people get mad when I say that, but I think that it's too early to invest. At least for me. I don't know. I'm going to give it another year. I'll give it another 6 months. Maybe there'll be there will be some traction in 6 months, and some of these things will mature more, and there'll be a better landscape for this.
Or maybe there'll be a really great deal, like once every other month for the past year that one of your friends will fucking send you over Skype that you'll ignore until the next day when the sale's over and you don't have them anymore.
Unless it's 65 inch, I don't want it.
There was only one of those. They were mostly 55 inches, but you missed some pretty amazing OLED deals.
Well, you know, Bob. Fuck you. Okay. Where's my blow up doll?
Yeah, we talked about HDR as well, and they were saying like that it's pretty hard to compare brand to brand because they do HDR differently, like where they set levels at. Like some of the TVs, it's an absolute level, where other TVs it's a relative thing, and so like making comparisons is pretty difficult because none of it has been standardized.
I'm curious though if OLED, just by nature of that particular and specific technology, if that will create just by the nature of that technology, if that will create a baseline of input latency that because of that technology you're always going to have, regardless of how excellent the processing is, you're going to have X amount of latency. Or is that not an issue with OLED? Can it be very fast? Can it be very fast? Bob?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question. I had to run out and I had to run and grab something. Or could you repeat the question?
No.
I think he was just asking latency on OLEDs.
Oh, so yeah, all right. I caught it at the end, and now I understand. I think it has the potential to be as low as LCD, but for whatever reason, it's just not at the moment. So, and it varies greatly. And I just had a new update to my panel that changed the default settings that I had set for each input, which makes me very angry because now I have to go back in and turn off all that processing. But I'm going to go and remeasure the panel. I'll probably do it later. It only takes about a minute now with my new setup, but hopefully that would have this new update lowered the latency as well.
I was reading something. I think it was in a Reddit thread. This might have been a week ago. Do you think Microsoft has any plans whatsoever to kick off an upscaler that suits 4K sets?
Gentlemen.
I thought that was a Bob question.
It was a Bob question.
I don't know anything about the company, and I can only speculate, but the fact that they haven't said anything at all, and the fact that there's, I don't know of an easy way to do that. There's people that have done it. It certainly can be done, but no one is doing it, or at least talking about it. So I don't know.
When you say there are people who have done it, who and what are you referring to specifically?
Well, the one that's public, because he said it in the interview, is Zeiss from ZeissWorks. He built his own solution, and he can upscale almost any resolution. And when I started asking specifically about retro gaming resolutions, he laughed like, no, that's not what I mean by almost. He's talking about really weird resolutions. So you could take, it's essentially, his monitors supposedly have something like an OSSC built in that could integer scale from any resolution up to 4K with zero lag.
So the way I understood what that guy's doing is he's basically just creating his own intermediary that directly drives these panels. But you know what I kind of gathered from the interview that you conducted with him, and he doesn't particularly. I felt like he doesn't particularly care for the gaming scene. Like he wants that technology to be used for, I guess, other more useful, whatever that means, applications. Did you feel that way?
A lot of people have said that, and to be honest, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt because it could also be interpreted as he didn't want to just sit there and brag about gaming. He wanted to talk about the monitor, overall. But he did talk about being in a GameCube tournament and using the monitor for that, and he talked to me offline about stuff, and he responds to every email I send him. So I have a feeling, and I haven't sent him many, maybe only 3 or 4, but I have a feeling if he really felt that way about gaming, he just wouldn't respond to me at all.
Well, do you think that, okay, well, that's fair. Yeah, I'm surprised, that's interesting, Bob. I'm surprised we've not seen more and more panel direct drive solutions for these things. Maybe we'll see more of that from other people. I think that's going to be I think that's sort of the next niche logical step is people who are creating these sort of middleman boards that will allow you to drive these panels directly, and you can fine tune them. I think that might happen, and that might become a common thing in the next year or two. I don't know.
What I would really love is just Renee, can you mute yourself or something?
Yeah, Jesus, Renee, you're fucking killing us.
What I would really like to see is TV manufacturers that offer like direct mode, if you will. So, you have to a button combination, make it complicated so somebody can't accidentally do this. But for the nerds that want to specifically do it, essentially turn their panel into a monitor with no features, nothing, just uses, the HDMI detection to turn on and off, and that's it. And I would love to see something like that. So for people that have, like, a decent TV that maybe everything about it is outdated, just go direct in, use a nice processor, and go from there.
Well, I think what I would much rather see, and maybe you're saying the same thing that I do, is I would like to see game modes for these sets be like on steroids. Like, get rid of all the stuff that's accommodating for movies and those sorts of visuals to really cut down the latency. What happened, Steve?
I'm sucking it up. Like, really
You're doing a good
hard.
job. I'm really proud of you. But I would like to see. I think that if they just fine-tuned and gave you some more options when it comes to sort of these game modes, I think that would be a big help too. Because I don't know. I don't know. It's interesting. I guess I don't think we'll ever have a solution to that, because I don't know if competitive gaming keeps sort of if it maintains the traction that it has, maybe that'll put more pressure on these larger television companies or these television manufacturers to drop that latency as low as they can. You know what I mean? Maybe. I don't know.
100% agree, and I think for the companies like DataPath that have been very vocal about not giving a shit about gaming at all, they want to be their digital signage company and that's it. I think the first time the execs at DataPath get a load of one of these streaming tournaments where it's got over 1 million views post tournament, and the 50,000 to 100,000 people are watching it live, I think regardless of the attitudes of the nerds, the marketing department alone will be like, look, you need to start paying attention to these guys. We don't give a shit if you think it's elite or not. It's more of a revenue stream than the signage we're doing. And I think the monitors might be the same thing.
Well, speaking of DataPath, I don't know if you've discussed this since, but Steve had you conduct a battery of tests with the DataPath Vision card. I think it was an E1 or E1S to verify the actual bandwidth output of that card for 240p sources. And contrary to what I've read on like Discord and a lot of places, like Steve's wrong and you're wrong and you're not setting the resolution correctly and the vision interface. No, that's not the case at all. It does in fact cut the bandwidth almost in half, doesn't it, for 240p sources? That's what you came to, right?
Yes. So I've been trying to do a lot more research on this, and I've spent more hours than I really wanted to. But both the DataPath Vision E1S and E2S, as well as the older DataPaths that are just called the RGB Pro or something, on the latest version of the driver, they in 240p resolutions, it does not process the full resolution, exactly like Steve said. 480p and up, it seemed fine. And the entire reason that I use the DataPath is for the OSSC. That still works perfect. OSSC directly in any resolution that's 480p and up works perfect.
It worked on 240p too.
In digital?
Yeah, didn't it?
I don't remember, but
I think you tried it too, and you got 1440 by 240, which is what you're supposed to get.
Right. Oh, that's
Yeah.
right. You did. That's right. You did. I remember that because you set your OSSC to pass through, so it just did. Or no, I remember. Touch me, Daddy. Oh.
So yeah, I mean, I'm still the entire reason that me, Cruz, Arturo, and all those people have been ranting about this has been for its OSSC compatibility, and because it could process the colors correctly. It doesn't compress any of the colors, and when using it through the OSSC, all of the things that we've said are still 100% true. But yeah, Steve did find the bug for people going directly in for 240p.
I'll tell you though. I mean, I paid. Well, I didn't pay anything, Bob, because you sent me both of these cards broken for free. But my God, if you have a LameMeister or an OSSC, I can't think of a better cheaper capture card if you have a digital source. It's phenomenal for that.
And I gotta be honest too, weird issue or not, if you're looking to start into this stuff and you have the end goal of an OSSC, and you need a first step, just use the data path in 240p. It still works. It still looks
Sure.
alright.
And if you're going to stream that via OBS on Twitch or YouTube, ain't nobody really going to say anything about it because nobody would even notice unless they had something to compare it against.
Yeah, completely agree. So no matter what, I still think it's a great choice. Obviously with the only caveat that you're buying something new, or used, not new, so there could be issues with it. And I'd just, as always, if you have any trouble with your DataPath cards at all, you can just mail them directly to Voltar, and he will refill the chip and keep them for himself.
What a dick!
Hey, I got a question. Like my audio that I hear versus I'm seeing on my TV has been falling behind little.
Yeah, people are saying that the audio has become desynced.
Okay.
I wonder why.
I was just talking to Carsey about that, Carcinogen SDA, and he said he set up a few. He's had a few times where he does his speed runs, which that's somebody that goes hours and hours at a sitting.
Oh, sure.
And he does have that issue with a few different setups. And to be honest, I forgot how he said he cured the desync thing. But his setups are more crazy than your average person, and they should be. He's a pro. He should look the best possible. But yeah, I'll make sure when he gets back from Japan, I'll figure out what he did, and if anybody cares, ask at the next one, and I'll tell you what he said.
I probably can try something. I'd probably try just like resyncing the video really quick.
But yeah, just because, I'm glad you said that, Bob, because just because, Steve found this this quirk about its lack of it's very sample deficient. That shouldn't turn people away from that. If you want a cheap and very useful, especially in the digital realm, capture card to kind of get you started. I love mine. There's no reason for me to buy anything else. I don't care about capturing in 4K or anything like that. So as long as I can do 1080p 60, that's fine.
Other people are saying the audio is fine, so I don't know.
Yeah, I guess don't worry about it. For me, especially when I'm using my phone, audio desyncs on YouTube all the time, regardless of the video that I'm watching.
You know what's interesting? With Firefox, audio desyncs all the time. With Chrome, it doesn't desync.
Huh.
Go figure. Probably all the tracking cookies and things that run on here kind of make that happen.
One of the things we're talking about streaming here, one of the things I was working on this week is somebody I know wants to start streaming old Nintendo, like original, just with composite at first. He completely understands that it's going to look like garbage, but just step one, see if people care, and if not, go back to PS4. So I was trying to think of the best cheap setup, and he has a Mac, which makes things harder. But I would obviously assume the RetroTink 2X, and then a capture card with an HDMI pass-through would probably be the best solution overall. And the ones that I saw were either the very bad-looking knockoff ones, or the why am I drawing the Elgato's? Is there something that works well with OBS on Macs that you guys know of? Preferably, obviously, it would have to be USB or Thunderbolt.
I have no idea, Bob. I don't know anything about, sort of shit like, I don't know, Bob. You're asking the wrong guy. Maybe Renee knows. He knows a lot about operating systems that nobody gives two fucks about.
I don't use Mac at all. I use Linux.
He uses Unix, so I mean.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
It's all Unix.
Well, I don't know.
It's like Mac, but affordable.
The problem is, I don't even have a Mac here to test. Otherwise, I could just, order my best guess off of Amazon, give it a try, and move along. But I guess I could use friends and stuff. But I don't want to bother people. Hey, Extrems is in the chat, and he said he gets optimal 240p capture through DataPath Analog. If you wouldn't mind, man, can you explain why? Because I spent an annoying amount of time trying to set the settings correctly, trying to change
hold on a
things.
second, Bob. Hold on a second. Maybe he should. I mean, elaborate or what do you consider optimal? What does he mean by optimal? Maybe he means something else.
maybe we haven't shared our full test test scenario. So it's the high-speed bandwidth test is what we were using. You can get that right in the HD Retrovision, the Rectal Vision software. I still think that's the perfect name for the software, by the way. But yeah, it's the one that's just white black, white black, white black, and it's the closer together one.
Let's
And
not be racist, Bob.
if you try to
It plays
just
the Michael
add-
Jackson song while you view that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, if you put that up, yeah, Extrems, if you want to DM me or email or something, I could try to send you the screen caps. I'm gonna grab them now because I did save all of them.
Yeah, just go ahead and BF him there, Extremes. Yeah, because I'd like to know I'd like to know how he defines optimal, because that could mean a number of different things, and I don't think that means what you're meaning, Bob. That's why I say that. I don't think you guys are on the same page.
I'm explaining
Sexually.
it badly. Sorry.
No, it's not that you're explaining it badly. I just think I'm assuming that Extremes thoroughly understands what we're talking about in terms of the data path when you feed it a 240p analog source samples. It doesn't sample.
Not enough samples.
It's not sampling 720 across. What is it sampling? Like 384 or something?
320.
Okay, 320. Let's see, 320, not 420, but 320. I mean, you're losing. It's like it's like what was said. People are all about all these BVMs and stuff because of the line count. Well, it's the same principle, only in a total digital space. It's like, you've got this PVM or BVM that has this beautiful, crisp picture, and then you're comparing that to a consumer-grade TV. The output for the data path is not even. It's almost half, or a little over half, of what the line count is on a CRT. Like it looks technically worse than a consumer-grade CRT. Does that make sense?
It's kind of that. It's
I'm just trying to create an analog for it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's
Zach,
The- the
check
pr-
the,
the problem
chat
is-
and see if that's a good example.
so the problem is the aliasing. So if you properly anti-alias for 320, then it'll look like
Yeah,
a
well, I think
blurry mess. But if
Put
you
that in chat.
don't do that, then you're gonna have that like pattern that repeats. So those are the two possibilities.
So let me ask you this: what would happen, because your cutoff is going to change because of your sampling phase. So like your Buttersworth, if you had like a Miss Buttersworth filter, typically that would live in like 9 megahertz, 8 megahertz. That would have to dip down to like 3 or 4 megahertz, right?
Yeah.
So if you did that, well, even then, it would still look like shit.
Well, it'll look blurry, but that pattern will go away because
Right.
you're filtering out the alias.
That's right. That's right.
I just posted in the chat, but it's havoc out here, so I'm gonna keep muted.
Bob, what's going on? Are the terrorists there?
I don't know, but there's a new fad now in New York where they don't just turn the sirens on; they just press the button, so you get that boop 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 over and over.
Fat.
Ugh, drives me insane. How small does your dick have to be that's how you get your excitement? Just boop 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 at fucking 2 o'clock in the morning.
I need
Ugh.
somebody to clip that, both audio and video of Bob doing that. I've got some plans, but no.
I'll give you another one, Zach.
Yeah, Jesus, thank you, priceless. But the idea was, I know a lot of people said, well, the reason that you're getting that is because you're not manually setting the resolution, and I would like you to state for the record, Bob or Steve, that manipulating the resolution and dialing that in manually has absolutely no bearing on the sampling rate that the card uses or performs.
Well, they
As
don't.
far
It
as I know.
doesn't let you like go higher. Like it just duplicates what's on the edges.
And then you get a Hall of Mirrors effect,
Yeah.
where
Right.
it just repeats.
Right. Yeah, I talked to Tech Monkey X on Twitter. He's pretty insane at this stuff, and he gave me some suggestions as well. But it all comes down to you can't manually change certain settings. Cruz is in the chat. Jose, do you know which firmware revision you were running? Because you said you didn't have this issue a long time ago, and you never updated the firmware. So maybe that's it.
And that's very possible. It could be a matter of just changing not just the driver, but the firmware on the card. And Jesus Christ, there's about 30 or 40 different releases of that. So I feel sorry for the person who actually wants to go through and test that. But it's an idea. I don't give a shit enough about it to do that, but that's just me. I don't know if it's showing up, but
Yeah, Jose said it's about 7 years ago when he first installed it. So, yeah, I guess if it's still running, oh yeah, because the firmware gets loaded with the drivers, so you'd have to find an older driver. But I don't think you could downgrade the firmware, so it's a moot point. Extremes, you said good enough. Do you mean the picture that I sent in that I linked in the chat? You think that's good enough in a bandwidth test? Because at every other resolution, 480p and up, it's perfect. It's not good enough. And by the way, that tone might have been accusatory. I didn't mean it that way. I'm just really curious.
You just want to confirm what his comment was.
I don't know what happened.
Zach's pressing buttons.
I don't know what happened. I think my internet dropped. Oh, oh, look at me! I've got a frame meister. Woo! Okay. Oh, it's showing up. Great. It's showing up in chat. Oh man.
I wish I was still in my 20s.
Oh my god. Oh, thank god. Yoshi Yuki Blade. I thought you were somebody else, man. Jesus Christ.
No, he's disappeared from Twitter, and he's disappeared from these videos. But he's rampant on Facebook.
He's not
Yeah, he blocked
disappeared
me.
from Twitter.
He blocked me, called me a hater or something. I don't know. I didn't hating it. You know, I did. The last thing I heard about him, somebody told me that he was defending something that he was accused of stealing that he didn't steal, and people were making up stuff against him. That's the last thing I ever heard about that special.
He's still going on with that, and he's apparently
Are you
one
sure
of
he's
those.
still going on with that?
Yeah, somebody last night sent me a screenshot on their phone of the person I know getting yelled at by him for something, and he brought that up. But it's it makes me sad because some people don't like if you hand them a picture and a video of them doing something, they'll just pretend like it didn't happen. They'll just act like like it doesn't matter. So I don't know. How can you talk to a liar? And I don't know. It pisses me off.
I don't know, but I
don't
blame
talk
you
about
for
it
that.
anymore.
I know. I don't either. I blame you.
That was my fault. That's why I feel so shitty about it.
I mean, let's not mince words here. That was totally. Oh my God. I mean, but unfortunately, that's kind of par for the course here. I mean, that's going to happen. You're going to run into people like that, and that's just inevitable, right?
Yeah, who cares?
Yeah, who gives a shit? I think it's funny. I mean, it's entertaining, Nick. I mean, you and I talk about all kinds of wild things that we find entertaining.
I know, but this is like a board for a shitty handheld console that nobody uses. Who cares?
Right. That's true.
Like,
That's
who
very
cares? Just let it go.
I don't know. You're a good.
I mean, frankly, he's probably the only one doing Game Gear mods. Who else would want to do that shit? Nobody likes that console. You won't do them.
I'll tell you, the last Game Gear I did was for Dave White of Nutsack, and that was a nightmare. Tim Worthliston had to RMA me one board, and it was just a nightmare. I hate Game Gears. I'll never do another one.
You're not gonna do mine?
I would rather burn in hell with George Soros. Yeah, I'll do it. Send it on down.
I mean, I got the GGTV kit and everything.
I
Ready
mean,
to
yeah.
go.
Oh, you know what I was going to ask, Bob? Who is the other fella that makes it's similar to Tim's kit, only I think it does RGB or VGA, and it has
the McWill kit.
And it has some scaling options, I think, or something.
Yes, it does.
Is that still around?
Yes, it is, and it's really awesome. The only thing it doesn't have is a perfect integer scale, which Nick, don't even say a fucking word. But I do wish there was a kit available that could do that, because there's always, you're compromising something. Now, because it's the Game Gear and the Game Gear screen sucks so much, it is completely and totally worth it in my opinion. But I'm posting the link in the chat now to the pictures. I think most people, even the purists, would agree.
You know what I'm interested in is Furtek. His goddamned Virtual Boy TV out apparatus.
Oh, me too. I am so fired up for that. That guy is making some incredible shit.
Yes. Oh, and actually, somebody else. What's his name? Electron Ass. He has something going for the Intellivision. Or what is it? The Coleco? He has a digital video out for one of those that he's working on?
Intellivision.
Intellivision, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I was talking to him about that the other day. I was begging him to not use the Genesis 2 connector so we could spare all those problems and just use the 8-pin mini DIN. So.
I wonder if when is Industrial Industries, when are they coming out with their GameCube thing?
Should be
Couple of weeks,
next
right?
Friday. Next Friday.
Right. Right. Fantastic. Oh, there's Bob, do you know if that unit in particular will be updatable?
Well, you can open it, and I think they have the.
Yeah, you
I think
can
I
open it.
I think I saw on Twitter they said the JTAG was going to be available if you can open it.
Okay. Great. That's wonderful.
Yeah, it means like 1% of people will be able to update their thing.
Well, I think that the guy who makes the firmware, the guy who initially made this thing, updated the firmware to take care of this chroma problem. So there should be a fix across the board. So there's not going to be any special people that have a fix for it. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So that's great. That means everybody now has an opportunity to fix or update their GameCube solution.
Not Eon.
Yeah,
Subsequently, they can. I mean, you can't update that thing, but maybe they can make another one. I don't know.
I really still haven't looked at like a side-by-side comparison of pre-fix and post-fix. I mean, how much of a difference is it?
If it's green or if it's yellow content, it can be pretty significant. I mean, in my opinion, like I didn't notice it, but I think there was a screenshot of Metroid Fusion or Metroid Zero Mission where there's like I think it might be the map that you can populate.
Extreme posted that one, yeah.
If you compare the maps, it's not like one chip versus two chip PPU. You know what I mean? It's not like that, but it's somewhere in the middle. I don't really give two shits about it. Other people might.
Yeah, I'm just curious. I haven't seen the comparison.
As wrong as it might be, I don't think it's as bad as people were initially sort of saying it was. I mean, it's a problem, but it's not a goddamning issue, in my opinion.
Agreed. It's one of those things where, like, if I had a choice now, so if I was just about to buy a plug-and-play device, I would choose the one that could be upgradable just because, whatever, you're spending your money on something. And maybe Eon will come up with a cool solution, who knows. But if I already owned one, I would not go out and buy another one unless the GameCube was absolutely hands down my favorite console. But if that's the case, I mean, at one point I owned like 15 Super Nintendos. So, like, there's no limit if it's your favorite.
What I would like to see is Dan get his in volume. I would like to see Dan have the opportunity to produce his GC Dual in volume so that it can touch a lot of people, or a lot of people can have access to that. I wish maybe him and Eon would get with him, maybe, and let Dan spin them up a dual analog and digital unit and use Dan's tech. And a lot of, because I'm sorry, I'm just telling you, I've seen it, and I think Dan at the moment, things that are tangibly viewable, has the best dual solution from what I've seen. What do you think, Bob?
Do you mean the plug-and-play dual solution?
Yeah, the plug-and-play. Yeah, isn't that what Dan calls it?
Yeah, the GC plug is what he calls it. Yeah, I think it's fucking completely awesome.
GC plug. I'm sorry, Dan, if you're here. GC plug. I would like to see that in volume. I think that would be wonderful. Maybe Eon could work with him on that and touch him. I don't know, but you got to ask yourself this. If you're an Eon, right, and you've already saturated the GameCube market with all these things, and all of these tournament runners now are using your plug-and-play solution. Would there be a market, or would it be fiscally viable to recreate the same thing that has updated firmware but does both analog and digital simultaneously? I think so.
Yeah, I think there will be a market for that.
GC Max. I'm sorry, Dan. Danny calls it the GC Max.
I gotta be honest, and I'm sure I'm going to offend everybody in the chat, everybody on this podcast, but at the end of the day, what I'm probably going to end up doing is using a GC Video RGB solution for my GameCube, which will be 99.9% used for the Game Boy interface and 0.1% used for the 240p test suite. And I think everything else will be used through the Wii. And I'd rather do HDMI through the Wii for GameCube and Wii games, and not really care about anything else for GameCube.
Whose GameCube solution are you going to use?
I'm probably going to try all of them and see if there's a difference, but the only thing that matters to me is if I could use a SCART cable into my G-SCART switch and have high quality. That's pretty much it. So with the new firmware being released, they should all look the same.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, too. I mean, a lot of times, somehow this gets clouded or misconstrued, but the whole reason this exists, these GameCube digital video solutions, is because there was a nice guy who was generous enough to to hammer a lot of this out, and he gave it away for free. And now that gives everybody the opportunity to kind of shape it however they want and make it their own. And I think that's wonderful. I don't think that guy gets enough credit, Bob.
I have tried. He chose the name Unseen because, as a literal translation of what he wants to be. He said he'd be happy to do an interview with me where I email him questions and he emails me responses, but he doesn't even want his real name said, which is, for the record, that is this very specific reason why I don't say his real name. I always just call him Unseen, even though according to the open source rules, you have to use your real name, but I don't do it just out of respect. It was a very easy thing for somebody that gave away shit for free to simply ask to use the screen name, so no problem. I do hope to meet him someday. Maybe I could fly. I know he's German. Maybe I get to, if I'm ever out in Germany, I could meet him and thank him in person. Give him hugs from all of us.
Yeah, jack him off for me. No, I'm just kidding.
Little tuggy.
Bob, what about Woozle? Where is that son of a bitch?
Woozle is in an interesting place because he.
Don't give me that shit, Bob. Don't give me that. Be straight up.
Woozle's a student, so he needs to put his he needs to put school first. So
that's
every time he
talk.
makes
That's
progress
talk,
with his solution, he's
You
gonna
lost
stop
me at school,
for a
Bob.
while.
You lost me at
Yeah,
school.
look at Steve. He never put school first, and he's turned out to be a resounding success.
There you go. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the nerd in me wants to fly down there and shake him uncontrollably until he finishes the project. But he's made a lot of strides with this thing. It's a great product, and he's just finalizing the last little bits. And he also wants to. A lot of the delays aren't the typical delays. Aren't the let me just put another feature in. Let me do this. A lot of it's just making sure the security's set so that it doesn't end up like the what is that? The GDEMU, so that somebody can't just clone it and make a bunch of them. A lot of it makes sense, and he also wants to get production set up properly, so you don't have a situation like the GDEMU where you could make 2 a week and for the rest of your life. So he's doing it right.
Let's talk about that, because there are several different angles, right, of the GDEMU and that whole thing went down. And let me just tell you, I'll preface what I'm about to say by simply saying I have very little sympathy for that guy.
You rant. I'm gonna grab another beer. I'm gonna need it for this.
Oh, I'm done.
I mean, he's running his business the way he wants to run it, so I don't really care either way.
That's right. That's right.
So why is there sympathy even needed if he's doing it how he wants to do it? He doesn't need sympathy. This is how he wants to run it.
Well, that's the way he wants. That's the way he wants to run it, Nick. But his response to the GDEMU being cloned
Oh, I didn't see that. What was his response to that?
Well, I mean, obviously it was full of vigor, and he certainly took issue to that. Nonetheless, oh, dude, you can't install it that way. No wonder you're having fucking noise. He was obviously supremely butthurt about it. But what was remarkable,
As I would be too, by the way.
of course,
For the record.
that's not. I'm not saying that in a faulting way, but you can't make. You can't, if you're content with making 2 of something every 6 years, and somebody comes around and they 1-to-1 copy the thing, it's hard to get upset when you aren't at least making some strides to meet demand. Had you been meeting your demand on some sort of level, there would have been no place for the Chinese. Oh, I'm sorry, for a third party to come in and make an illegal market for your own product, right? I'm not saying, I don't know. I have a couple of different opinions on this. What do you think, Bob? You're fully abreast of this, so I'm sure you have a pretty informed opinion.
Yeah, I think you guys, and before I say anything, I'm very glad you were, but you were very hard on me last year when I made this argument about people that don't make enough, and we even brought up the GDMU. And Nick did bring up one, and one only, good point, and that even if you're able to make, in a cost-effective and efficient way, 1,000 of something, maybe there's just no chance in hell that you're able to support 1,000. And even under the hypothetical scenario that there's a 0% failure rate, you're still going to have to answer emails for simple questions. You're still going to have to filter the thank yous, whatever else, shipping issues. So I do understand that, but there's just, there was then, and now 10 times, there are people out there that are now making their living by helping developers like that. And there's a few of them, like, I hate to call people out, but GameTech has been doing this for a while and has very clearly proven his ability to do this. So there's a lot of people, not just him, that have the ability to step in and help. So to choose not to, you either have to have a reason that I don't know about, which, I'm the first to admit when I'm ignorant and say the wrong thing, but either there's a reason that I'm not seeing, or it's just a bit of an ego thing. There's people that can help make him a lot of money while at the same time giving people what they want.
It's one thing to take 4 months, it's one thing to take 5 months, it's one thing to take 6 months to try to percolate your product. But when you're taking 2 to 3 years and you still can't even meet a 16th, an astronomical fraction of your demand, there's an issue. And if you're not wanting to deal with that, other people are going to come in and deal with it for you. And guess what? When that happens, you're not going to be the person that's profiting off your own product. That's just the way it works.
I think people would be a little more understanding of him if his process wasn't so chaotic and unpredictable. Like, the fact that you have to just, go to this website and read his blog and hope you catch the time where he mentions when it's going to go for sale. And then he never even says, it'll be up at this time. Like, the time I tried to get it, he's like, I'm going to make this available for people on the West Coast, and you should be able to have breakfast beforehand, and that's all I'm going to tell you. It's like, what?
Well, Nick, you tried to get us one a couple of times. I know you tried to get me one. I said, hey, if I can't get there, see if you can secure one for me. I tried, and I really tried, and it's my fault for, not hitting refresh fast enough. But eventually I did have breakfast after I went over to jackdiy.cn and grabbed the bootleg. I had a great omelet after securing the pirated.
Cruz just said, if you don't bang your hot wife, someone else will eventually.
That's right. That's a fantastic metaphor.
Yeah, I think that time it was 9:45 West Coast time or something that he released. It's and I missed it because I was refreshing every 10 minutes or something, and I don't know. And yeah, it's up for 1 minute and then gone. So I think that's why people get frustrated. If there was a more obvious way to organize this thing, it'd be a little bit better.
But you can't get mad at your consumer and write a shitty, cunty blog because they've tried for however long.
Well, you can, it's just nobody cares.
Well, you can, but it just makes you look foolish, right? But you you can't vent about that online, and because they had to go somewhere else to get your product. I mean, people are only so
gave up on
understanding.
it. I just went and I got the other one.
Yeah, I got the. Well, I mean,
Not the
I
bootleg, the
exchanged
one-
one email with him, and he was nice. He was polite. It's the only conversation I've ever had, and I do understand, frustration. And some people, some of which we know and we deal with on a regular basis here. I'm not even talking about you guys, just people in the community. Some people have the ability to annoyingly rant to their friends in private. I do that at least once a week to you guys. Sorry, and it's annoying,
Don't
but
worry,
that's
we ignore
fine.
it.
That's what friends are for, right? Take one for the team. But when people do that publicly, whether it's Twitter, whether it's their own blog, I wish people had the sense to not. But it did rub me the wrong way that when he was rightfully mad that his product got stolen, his first response was, "So now I'm definitely not going to make the Sega CD optical drive emulator because screw everybody." It's like, dude, talk about,
Oh.
And for the record, the last time I talked about this, his followers hit me hard in the YouTube comments, so we all might want to prepare for some shittiness. I had to ban like 20 people.
I really don't care. It's one thing, like I said, for someone to wait 6 months, maybe even a year. People have been trying to grab this thing for years, and so, you've had time. What Jesus Christ, the Latter-day Saints, what more do you need?
Yeah, I mean, I say go for the USB GD-ROM. That's what I did.
Fuck that. Go for the pirated. Go for the pirated one.
It was a little sketchy of a
Let's see.
situation. Like, you basically go to this Russian website. It's written in broken English, and you sign up for a list, and then randomly you get an email maybe a couple weeks later, and then you send money to PayPal, and you just hope. And then a month later, a package shows up.
Yeah, I've heard some stories about that person. I have no personal interaction with him, but there was one scenario where a buddy of mine, actually two people that I know, within the same 2 or 3 days, bought one of those from the USB GD-ROM thing, and one person received it within 2 weeks, and the other person. It was months of going back and forth, and he finally had to file like a PayPal thing because there was no correspondence. There was one random email a month later, and then nothing else, and he never got his. And this was within a few days of each other. So, and that's not the worst story I've heard about buying from that person. So who freaking knows?
Yeah. I'm gonna post a link. I'm going to post a link in chat to jackdiy.cn, not just for the Sega Dreamcast, not for just the Sega Dreamcast pirated optical drive emulator, but if you're wanting to buy a SD to SNES for about $100 or $110, you can get one here, and it is legit. I've purchased from this site, so it's in the link, it's in the chat there. If you're wanting an SD to SNES. You can grab one from there, and it's, from what I've found, the most affordable place to buy one.
Well, the DTS-NES is an open source design, right? So
yeah,
right,
so anybody's allowed to make it.
Anyone's
Steve,
allowed to
just,
produce that.
Just a shout out to Steve for whooping some ass on that boss. Good call, dude.
Yeah, Bob, Steve, good job. No one cares.
I fought that boss like 4 times already.
Yeah, he's gonna die again. This
I
time.
know. I'm just trying to give some words of
It's
encouragement
not
here.
even close. On
Trying to
this
get some
attempt.
words of encouragement.
I think he's
Hey.
doing worse on this than I did on Rockman 2. I got to be honest with
I
you.
don't think
Dan,
so.
Dan
You have
posted
not been
some-
paying attention at all, man.
I have. You've not been doing very
The
good.
whole thing.
You've not been doing very well.
Yeah,
I'm
Dan
sorry,
posted
I'm
something
not
interesting
watching.
in the chat. He said the USB GD-ROM is becoming obsolete because he's having to harvest GD-ROM drives in order to make them.
Yes.
I didn't realize that you had to do that.
Yeah, that chip on there is from GD-ROMs.
That's
Oh.
a terrible design if you have to do that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like that even less now.
That's
I
a
don't
terrible
want
design.
I don't want to sacrifice something to build something else unless it's like the only exception is when I throw out the RF boxes, when I desolder them and put something else, putting an RGB DIN in its place. That's the only thing I don't give a shit about. But
Well, the thing that I'm talking about, the GDEMU, it's kind of finicky, especially with multi-disc games, like like D2, I think, or Skies of Arcadia. There's a particular way that you have to put those games on your SD card in order for multi-disc games to work properly. But it's okay. I mean, the GDEMU, or the the USB GD-ROM thing evidently handles that kind of stuff a lot better, from what I've been told. But I don't know. I mean, the Dreamcast is something that I play once every. I mean, I look at it this way. The Dreamcast, the HD Rectal Vision Dreamcast cable's never coming out because we're busy doing this nonsense. So I have no reason to even think about the Dreamcast.
I ordered the new cable from, well, not new. You
didn't order from HD Retro Vision, I can tell you that.
Yeah.
God, Jesus.
The Foo
What's
made
that?
that cable. And I'm looking forward to getting it. I think it should be here in a week or so.
Oh yeah, is it a Dreamcast cable?
It is. It has the cable itself has a switch, and one position is straight RGB, and the other position is just is VGA. The end is VGA, but then it goes into their customized VGA to SCART. And the way they do it, it has the sync combiner in there. So of course I'm going to put it right on the scope and make sure all the voltages are correct. But it seems like a pretty nifty way to get both with just a switch.
See, I thought that I didn't think that was necessary. I thought that regardless if you shorted that pin or not, regardless if you put it in RGB or VGA, the H&V output still shit out the correct sync, and you didn't have to do any of that sync combining. You could still do 15 kilohertz RGB with sync with the VGA connector.
I've never tried. I would really like to. I'd like to do either. I would like to have RGBS with both 15 kilohertz and 31 just via a switch, and just have a straight SCART cable that does both.
I could totally be wrong on that. Steve would probably. I think Steve was going to look into that. I don't think he ever did, because he's busy.
Yeah, I know Rob from Retro Gaming Cables is working on something, but I think there was a hiccup, so I'm not sure if that's getting delayed or not. But that's pretty neat. Dan's got a board that you mount on the inside of the console, right, Dan? It's not an external solution; it's an internal one, right?
I don't know. I'm just ready for a Dreamcast component cable. That's what I'm ready for.
I think we all are.
Never want to happen.
I think the RetroTink 3X will be out before the Dreamcast cable.
I think the retro, and you know what? I've heard that Mike is going to make cables that will accommodate his RetroTwink 3X, so that it's a beautiful marriage between both products, and one will lend itself to the other.
Thank God. Then we don't have to make cables anymore. I hate it.
Yeah, really good idea.
Mike's a good guy. I like him. He's sharp. Sharp
Yeah.
fella.
Yeah, he's helping me on another project too. I had somebody need something. I emailed him and they're like, probably wasn't late for him because he's West Coast time, but I was like, dude, this is gonna be a weird fucking email.
Hold on a second. Hold on a second, Bob. I wanted to ask you this because I get so confused.
Okay.
The RIA and the FOBE or FOEB, the FOEB.
It's what happens when you chug coconut water and you have to run to the bathroom.
The CV.
What happens to the? How come the O isn't long?
Say that again. The RIA and the Phoebe. What are you?
Well,
talking
you got PHOE. The O should be long. Wouldn't that be phobie?
I don't know.
It doesn't matter. Anyways, what is the difference between those two? What are those two? I mean, they're optical drive emulators for the Saturn.
Yes, and they match the model Saturn motherboard that you're using. So you can't use like RIA is for the Model 1, Phoebe is for the Model 2, but you also have to double check the board revision as well. Nelson got one. I was hanging out with him before. I think he's in the chat tonight. So.
Okay, what about the Saturn satiator?
21 pins versus 20 pin. Yeah, thanks guys.
What about 64-pin drive?
The Satiator plugs right into the back port, into the expansion module, and doesn't require anything else. No modding, no soldering. You plug that fucker in, and you're done.
I know he has does he have a Patreon or a Kickstarter that's funding the thing being made? I mean, is it being made yet?
I should email him. His last update was months ago, which is not. That's the opposite of the point of Patreon. So I should send him a polite little heads-up email, like, "Hey, dude, I want to throw a little monthly update here."
Oh, so it's not a Kickstarter; it's a Patreon.
Patreon, right?
So let me make sure I understand this. He has a Patreon for a device that is not finished that he might make, and he might make available for purchase. And the Patreon is theoretically funding this device that's
Development,
theoretically may come
Someone
out.
said they had he had an update recently.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
that's-
subscribed to his Patreon and I didn't get an update. Could somebody post a? Oh, you can't post a link in the chat. Let me look on his Patreon now. But I'm a supporter of his.
That's pretty interesting, though, that Patreon is used in such a capacity. Maybe I don't understand all the applications for Patreon. I just figured that would be more of a Kickstarter thing. You know what I mean? I don't even have a Patreon, and I'm a god.
You should have a Patreon. People will just give you money, and all you got to do is write an update every 3 months.
No, the last update is July 8th.
Nick, will you help me with that? What was the last update before July 8th? Just out of curiosity.
June 19th, March
Okay.
16th, April, May, June, March. No, that's February. All right, so he skips around, which
All right, well, that's understandable. I thought it was like, okay, 7 years or something. Okay, no problem.
People are saying he updated on Twitter, but I mean,
why would you update on Twitter and not on Patreon where people are paying you?
yeah.
And
Weird.
I think I follow him on Twitter too. I didn't see that shit. Usually a
Well,
ninja.
Twitter is.
Well,
yeah,
Nick,
I don't even want to know what that algorithm is.
Nick, I need you to help me set up a Patreon.
Sure,
I am
as
following him.
As your manager, I will.
Well, you're my legal counsel and advisor, so I need you to kind of help me.
Cheat count.
I really
Yeah,
appreciate
here, I'll post it in the chat. He posted a short, should be last stop before betas, is what he said. I'll post that
Why
in the
wouldn't you
chat.
tell that to the people that are giving him money? It's weird.
It's frustrating.
I don't think there's any malice. Obviously, I think some people just don't realize that there's a certain cadence, or sort of expected formality there.
Yeah, so I obviously I interviewed him. He seemed very nice. He seemed like a genuine person, and as both somebody who supports a whole bunch of people on Patreon, and obviously, I use Patreon. I think that the only thing that a Patreon subscriber should expect out of the creator is at least to be kept in the loop. So, I've seen a few Patreons for people that are like, hey, I'm doing this, I don't really update, I don't do anything, but they still post once a month, something.
This is like the worst run of Mega Man X4 I've ever seen as far as the Sigma end game here. I mean, Jesus, Steve. Come on, man. I want to see results. I want to see you get through this. Don't ever talk shit about my Rockman 2 run again, because this is abysmally fucking pathetic.
I thought I did pretty damn good, actually.
Well, when 30 minutes ago or an hour ago when you were on the same fucking boss? I mean, come
Did you
on.
see how long it took me to get here?
No, because I didn't care. I'm just kidding. I'm just being an asshole. No, I didn't see Steve. But I mean, I see how long it's taken you to stay here.
Don't
Oh
listen
my
to him,
God.
Steve. Whatever happens here, I'm still going to be worse at whatever it is that I'm playing.
I'm just giving
If
you
you
the
guys
same
are
motivation.
paying attention, then you know
I
I
just-
would have won.
I'm just giving you the same motivation you gave me. Oh my God, did you actually beat it?
Oh,
Keep
that is
saying
a
we
delay.
are not paying attention. I've watched the entire thing.
Yeah, and there is a delay, so you don't forget, because we have to watch on YouTube.
He.
Yeah, the delay kind of screwed me on this boss because he says the end before he does an attack, and that's how you know where to dodge, and it comes in way too late.
So this is defeated. You've beat the game.
Yeah.
Well, Steve, that was only, how long was that? Did anyone clock that?
Less than 2 hours.
Hour 55.
Okay, not bad, Steve. Not bad. Still better than Nick, obviously.
Well, yeah.
Oh wait, you've got one more boss. Oh, that's not a boss. That's General. Hard boss.
General Tso's chicken.
Yeah, it's Colonel Sanders. May I speak with you, please? What's the
love
matter,
that movie.
Colonel? Chicken?
What's the
Dude,
matter, Colonel
I swear to
Sanders?
you, if you came over, we turned that movie on, and I muted it, I could hit every line in that movie and not miss a single one. I love that movie
Yeah.
so much.
It's a Mel Brooks classic, man. That's one of my favorites. I've probably seen it almost as much as Terminator 2.
I don't know what I'm
Definitely.
gonna play. I think I'm next up to stream. I'd love to play the UMK3 board I just got. See if I could beat it on novice mode or something.
I doubt it. You probably don't have what it takes. That's a really hard game, man.
I love that game, and I love the original. Those are by
Oh!
far my favorites.
Speaking of arcade
Well, you
stuff,
have infinite continues, right? So you'll be able to beat it.
Nick, that's interesting that you always sort of use that to leverage your own failures.
No, I mean it's great. I think you guys keep playing games that let you. take
Nick, what
these
game were
big
you? What
prizes.
game? What game did you get screwed over in? What was it called?
Streets of Rage.
Okay, yeah, that's like the easiest fighter ever made. So play something challenging like.
Streets of Rage
Yeah.
2.
Yeah. No. Eternal Champions.
I like that game. I liked that
It's
game.
not a fighter. It's not a.
Eternal Champion is a beat 'em. It's like Street Fighter. It's a clone.
It's Eternal
Yeah,
Champions.
It's not a.
Shut
it's
up.
not a beat 'em up.
It is a beat 'em
Yeah.
up. It is a beat 'em up. It's
It's
called
kind
Eternal
of a cool
Champions.
game though. When was the last time you guys played that?
Oh, dude, I had it for Sega CD. It was a phenomenally terrible game.
I wish All right, let me ask you, smart fucker, something, and the chat as well. How come no one has done any kind of hacks for the Mega EverDrive that allows you to put like Sega CD audio on Genesis games?
I thought you were gonna say how come there's no hacks to put 5 volts into the Mega EverDrive.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny.
You mean like to treat to create like a Sega 30? I don't
like
know.
the MSU audio, but for Genesis.
Can the cartridge side access the CDD or the audio stream of the? Can it queue up the audio hardware on the Sega CD from the cartridge side?
It
I think
can.
so.
So so if you Chili Willy, I don't know if you guys remember him. He was a fucking phenomenal Genesis hacker that I haven't heard from in quite a long time. But he did a few hacks where you take a ROM cart and then you load up a hacked ROM and you put a burned CDR in the Sega CD and it would follow the tracks. So yeah, you could that is possible, and I think he posted information on how to do that as well.
Well, isn't that how those
Well-
CD 32X games worked? Right? Remember those like Corpse Killer that used both the Sega CD storage hardware and like the 32X and Genesis hardware too?
No, because you didn't have to put a cartridge in.
Oh, you didn't?
No.
No, what he means is it's running off the cartridge, but it's just streaming audio. The Pure Solar game does that, so it's definitely possible.
Huh.
Jesus Christ, Bob, get off the racetrack.
Right?
Yeah,
like if
sorry.
you got if you got the original Pure Solar, it came with a CD. Then afterwards, they give you a link to download the ISO, and you can choose. You can switch in game.
That's pretty neat. I wish I could have seen that, to be honest.
You know why there's not an ode for the Sega CD? Because there's just not enough quality there in that library. That's why.
I don't know.
What do you have,
I
Lunar
talk
1?
about this quite a bit on the interview that's launching tomorrow or Friday, depending on when I can get off my ass and finish the editing on it. But yeah, we talk about FMV games quite a bit, and I think I do think that there are enough that warrant some attention to the Sega CD.
You really think so? I mean, other than Lunar 1, Lunar 2, Shining Force, Snatcher, Pure Solar, which is not even a never mind. What's the other game I was thinking of? Okay, those games. That's pretty much and Final Fight CD.
I
That's
don't
pretty
give a
much.
flying
Sewer-
fuck what Nick says. I love Sonic CD.
Sewer Shark.
Yeah, so Sonic CD is really good. The Japanese
Okay.
soundtrack I prefer.
I like them both. I think some of those songs from my childhood get stuck in my head, which is why I normally use the U.S. soundtrack.
I will say two of the best Sega CD games, and I'm sad you guys haven't mentioned them: Terminator and Soulstar. Soulstar is amazing. Every game that Core made on the Sega CD pushed the system to its limits. It was amazing. There's so much scaling here; it puts Mode 7 to shame on the Super Nintendo.
Really? I can't remember if I ever played it. Aaron Welsh in the chat, Echo. I have no idea how I forgot about that. The soundtrack from that was awesome. It was like
Yeah.
90s trance music. When that
Trans
game came
music,
out, I
Bob.
was...
Let's be careful. We can't use those terms anymore. Okay? Please.
About 18 people have mentioned Pop Full Mail.
Yeah, that one's really expensive though.
Well, all Sega CD games that are worth owning are expensive.
Yeah.
Sonic CD's pretty cheap.
That's a $30 or $40 game.
I enjoyed the car parts of Batman.
Yeah, I did too. Said no one ever.
Yeah, that was about it.
I liked, my favorite game was, what was that called? I think it was a launch title. It was called The Last Battle or something. It had the guy with the boots on kicking the other guy. What was that called? Final Battle, Last Battle? I don't know. I'd have to find the cartridge. I think Shinobi 3 is my favorite game, next to Shinobi 1, followed by probably Sonic and Knuckles with Sonic 3 attached. I played that the other day.
See, are you
I
doing
like
a
that
playthrough now as X, or what's going on?
I
haven't beat it
can.
until you.
I would love to see Stu that, but I'd love to see Steve do that. But Nick, you're always like, we've got a schedule. If it's over 30 minutes, we're gonna have to call it quits.
I think X is the easier one. So.
Oh, here's some phenomenal Sega 32 or Sega Genesis games. This game, the Super Nintendo version, sucks compared to this. I don't care what anybody says. I don't know if my camera's populated on the screen, but RoboCop versus Terminator for the Genesis is phenomenal.
I thought you were
That's a
going
pretty
to
cool
show
game.
us. I thought you were going to show us Family Feud.
No. God, no. This is another phenomenal Genesis game. I think this is kind of expensive. I bought this for $1. Gayrus, phenomenal Genesis game.
Gaiaris?
No, Gayrus. Get it
A
right.
bunch of people keep talking about Vey.
Yeah, I've
don't-
never even
never
heard
heard
of
that game.
one.
I have them all. This would have been a phenomenal Sega CD game. I really wondered what this would have been. All the features that they dropped, but Phantasy Star 4. I touched myself to this as a kid. A fantastic game.
Hey, so
God, here we go.
Strems just DM'd me the link that he was trying to post in the chat, and I guess it definitely didn't appear because I would have seen it. But he posted his settings.
Yeah, I can't find the filter that's blocking people. I think I can only change that once we're offline or something.
Yeah, sorry about that. Anybody who tried to post it, but
So I had a Genesis right here on the floor, so we'll just pop the test that you wanted to show up.
You're gonna do what, Steve?
He's gonna play the best game for the Sega Genesis.
I can never beat this one.
I want to beat you tonight. I've got a bunch of Genesis. I think, Steve, you sent this Genesis. It's here on the floor. Oh, yeah. Get sync, but black screen only, rust around 68K pins. It's a Bob special.
there you go, Steve, showing the bandwidth test.
Okay, let's take a look at it. I mean, this YouTube compression is going to probably wreak havoc on it, but we should be able to make it out.
It looks like it, yeah.
You gotta blow it up to full screen, and then
Yeah.
see if it looks any better in. Oh yeah, if you have it at least 720, it's okay. You should see it full screen.
Yeah, see, I mean, I'm looking at it here, and I don't see... It looks fine, because...
Right, because he's not using the
Right.
data pad.
I'm using
So-
a card I've had for a while that I really like, and it samples at 720 horizontal. So
What card?
I
It's a
don't know
crappy
the
card.
I don't know the model off the top of my head. It's a K World
Shit card.
PE 360 something. I don't know, PVR 360.
More like P60, if you catch my drift.
I don't know.
You know what I'm saying?
It's-
Know what I'm saying?
I can send it to you later if you're interested, but
Yeah, I am actually, if you don't mind.
I bought it on Newegg probably.
How much
like
was it for
$20?
$20?
In 2010 for my DS project. I used it to capture video off the DS for my final
Is
project.
it USB?
No, it's PCI Express X1.
But it's composite nest video, right?
Yes.
I have one here.
And a tuner.
Oh, so you can tune analog cable?
Wait, I went out to their I think that's a Taiwanese company, and I think I went out to visit them. I mean, now it's over 10 years ago, I think, or just about 10 years ago, but we ended up using Because we needed TV tuners in our computers, because it was distributed TV through a hospital into the computer. I forgot what AverMedia, maybe they had like the PCI Express cards, like the same as the wireless cards. They made one of those that we ended up using instead. But we did that. We tried Cetons, which was a fucking nightmare, and we also tried the K-Force ones. And I had a couple of samples, and I did like them. They were very good, but it just didn't work right.
Yeah, I think the thing that makes this good is this NXP chip they're using on there, which, what is the model number of it again? 7160.
So do you think that, sorry, I had to fill up the old flask here. Do you think that,
Is that booze or flux in that flask?
there's... Oh, God. Hard times.
So what's the
Alrighty.
All right, guys, that was fun. I mean, we had a whole whopping, I think, 80 people in here, so I want to appreciate them coming. All of
Yeah,
them,
thanks
I think.
everybody for showing up. It's always a lot of fun to interact with the chat people while watching Steve struggle but win.
We didn't really watch it, Bob. You and I pretty much just carried on excellent conversations to keep people interested in staying.
My
I
thumb,
actually was watching.
my
I
thumb is
totally forgot that Renee was even here.
Renee left for most of it.
No, I was here. I was listening and I was working most of the time. I've been assembling some Commodore 64 boards that I recently started working on, and I made a bunch of. I soldered up 4 UMDs during this stream because 2 of these are going to be used to validate Tanglewood, and the other 2 are going to be used to program and validate Xenocrisis.
breaking
Renee
news.
is a goddamn renaissance man. He's bringing all these games to life.
Yeah, screw preservation. We're just making new stuff.
That's right. That's right.
Hashtag preservation.
Preservation.
All right, so I did not
Well, in
witness
30
the
years,
great.
hopefully they'll make a blue cartridge version of Xenocrisis.
I hope I hope that we get a fucking blue clear cartridge of 10-Yard Fight.
I
Or
went,
a 30th anniversary disc for 18 different consoles.
You know what I want? I want a nice complimentary anniversary disc, if we're going to get to this level, of the AOL sample discs that you used to be able to get at Walmart. You remember, in the front, in the kiosk? I like to have an
Get them in the
anniversary.
mail.
Yeah.
Just send them to you.
Yep.
I went to Denver and I went to this awesome arcade called Hyperspace, and I bought a shirt, so because I liked it so much. So if you're in Denver, check out Hyperspace and play the game Cosmotrons, which is like Asteroids, but it's multiplayer and it's just a lot of fun.
Well, see, I'm glad you had a good time. I'm glad that you, went to Denver. Did you see Joe Redifer there? Was he homeless on the street?
I didn't run into Joe Redifer, but all the homeless people knew who he was.
I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. Damn
There
it,
you
Joe.
go.
Alrighty. See y'all later.
See you guys. Great one.
Take care, everybody.
Fun time.
See ya.
Take
See
care,
ya.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye for now.